Hello everyone, I'm studying MBA in IIM Trichy, and as per my core curriculum, I have to talk on one of the topics related to my subject Indian economic policy. Therefore, I have chosen and I'm going to talk to you about the inequality which is being faced by India. So first let us see what is inequality. The Cambridge Dictionary describes inequality as the unfair situation in society when some people have more opportunities than other people. The United Nations describes it even more simply as the state of not being equal, especially in status, rights, and opportunity. It is the huge gap between the super rich and the rest of the world's population. This divides trap millions in poverty, fracturing our society and undermining democracy. This broken system favors the super rich, allows big business and the billionaire to gather vast amount of money at the expense of rest of us. Extreme inequality fuels corruption. While the term itself is quite vast and has various interpretations, for the purpose of simplicity, the two large umbrella under which we can classify inequality would be economic inequality and social inequality. Both these categories are deeply intertwined and inequality in one often affects the inequality in other. So let us see about them. Economic inequality, perhaps the most quantified and calculated form of inequality, is the economic variant. Even here, the most predominant form of inequality measured are those of income inequality and wealth inequality. Income inequality is the inequality in and disparity in the incomes commanded by the top percentile of the population in comparison to the bottom percentile, while wealth inequality measures look to do the same but by calculating the disparities in the wealth instead of income. Social inequality. Social inequality occurs when resources in a given society are distributed unevenly, typically through norms of allocation that endanger specific patterns along lines of socially defined categories of person. It is the differentiation preference of access to social goods in society brought about by power, religion, kingship, prestige, race, ethnicity, gender, age, sexual orientation, and class. In India, one of the most distinctive forms of social inequality comes within the sphere of gender and the caste, where people coming from marginalized section of these social categories are directly impacted in terms of their opportunities, access to essential utilities, and their potential as a whole. So now let us see, how is inequality measured? The most widely used metrics to measure inequality is the Gini index, or commonly known as Gini coefficient. Inequality in India is on rise, and as we can see more in this graph. So now let us see some of the reports and facts. Indian Inequality Report 2018, authored by Himanshu, Associate Professor of Economics, JNU, argues that contrary to popular perception, India is a high inequality country by global standards. Inequality in India is multidimensional. Therefore, are inequalities in wealth, income, and consumption, as well as the structural inequalities of opportunity, region, and social group. The report argues that the claim of India being a low inequality country are based on consumption expenditure inequality, which is generally lower than the income inequality. However, most other countries measure inequality on the basis of income. By Himanshu's estimates, inequality in India measured by income, wealth, and consumption shows high inequality trend and that India is among the world's most unequal country. Further, what is worrying is that not only is inequality high in India, inequality is on the rise in the country over the last 3 decades. The other report, which of 2018 from an international non-profit Oxfam, concluded that more and more of the country's income is going to the top 10% and the top 1% of the population, a trend that is strongly reflected in India. In 2017, India's richest 1% pocketed 73% of the total wealth generated in the country. In contrast, 67 crore Indians, the population poorest half, saw their wealth rise just 1%. Number of billionaires in India increased from 9 in 2000 to 101 in 2017. Out of which 70 new billionaires were added in 2017, out of which again only 4 were women. Overall inequality also appears to have grown according to Credit Suisse Global Wealth Report, which said that 2018 Gini coefficient for wealth in India rose to 0.854 from 0.83 in 2017 and 0.804 in 2011. The closer a country's Gini value gets to 1, the more unequal distributed is their economy. On most indicators, India is now among the countries with the highest level of inequality, but the analysis also shows that unlike most countries which started with high inequality, inequality in India has continued to rise, said the Oxfam. In the context of the acceleration of growth rate of Indian economy, the rise in inequality raises issue of the distribution of gain from growth. Oxfam separately reported that its online survey showed 73% of respondents in India said the gap between the rich and the poorer needs to be addressed urgently or very urgently. Jayati Ghosh, professor of Center of Economic Studies and Planning in JNU, blamed long-standing inequality in the country on the lack of political will and inefficient domestic policy. Inequality in political choices, the hold of elites and powerful lobbies over the government policy is very strong, she said. So what about these people? Are these people super talented, hardworking, or a risk taker? We have a lot of marginalization, so caste and class also determines your opportunity. People who are rich continues to get richer because of more and more opportunities, and the system also supports them with benefits. Our tax structure is such that you can actually save a lot of money if you are in the upper bracket of the population. In fact, the rich don't pay as much tax as a middle class person would pay, proportionately. And many opportunities are denied to people from specific caste groups like the Dalits, Muslim, and the tribal people. In fact, the tribal lags almost 20 years behind the other caste group in this country in terms of their education attainment. Wealth is often a product of inheritance, monopoly, and crony political connection, in which the rich are of the men and women continues to be the poorest and most vulnerable demographic. Wages that women get are always less for the same job than what men demands in the market. There is a lot of unpaid care work that women do, which does not get calculated and doesn't get accounted for. They don't get paid for it. So, what are the reasons? Reason for the continued global rise in wealth inequality can be said to be: first, delusion of labor law; second, influence of big business on policy making; third, reducing workers' pay for higher returns; fourth, minimizing input cost for higher returns; fifth, tax evasion. So, how is inequality affecting you, me, and the overall society? So as we can see in this diagram, if India's land were divided like India's wealth, it would look like this. Because so much wealth is concentrated with the super rich, very few resources trickles down to those who need them the most, the marginalized and the underprivileged. Inequality affects every member of the society. Economic inequality impacts the GDP per capita. It gives rise to poorer public health and illiteracy, thus increasing the crime rates, fueling the political instability, and eventually destabilizing the society. Society members also become pessimistic and lose faith in government and each other. Popular belief has it that working hard is the key of becoming wealthier. Yet, many of the super rich do not earn their fortunes through hard work or talent. Two-thirds of the billionaires globally have inherited their wealth or made it through monopoly rather than the talent. The CEO of India's top information firm earns 416 times the salary of a typical employee in his company. The reward of growing economy are enjoyed by billionaires and company bosses. In addition, the top wealthiest people have the means to stash their wealth in offshore tax havens to dodge taxes. If fairly paid, these taxes could help government provide essential service, which means quality education and healthcare for everyone in India. So how can we help? First and the foremost, government must fight to for the inequality. Government must listen to the ordinary citizens and take meaningful action to reduce inequality. All government should set a concrete time-bound target and action plans to reduce inequality as a part of their commitment under Sustainable Development Goal 10 on inequality. Some of the policy recommendations to bridge this wealth inequality gaps are: first, create an economy for all by promoting inclusive growth by ensuring that the income of the bottom 40% of the population grows faster than the top 10% so that the gap between the two begins to close. The marginalized communities, especially the Dalit, Muslims, and tribals, they need policies that will pull them out of the persistent poverty and backwardness. Second, we need a stronger tax policy to seal the leaking wealth bucket by taking stringent measures against the tax evasion and avoidance by corporates and the super rich, ending the undertaxation of rich individuals and corporations, tax wealth and capital at fairer levels. Tax the super rich by reintroducing the inheritance tax and increase wealth tax. Reduce and eventually do away with the corporate tax breaks. Stop the race to bottom on personal income and corporate taxes. Agree to a new set of global rules and institutions to fundamentally redesign the tax system to make it fair, with developing countries having an equal seat at the table. Third, bringing data transparency to produce and make high quality data on income and wealth available. We don't even know what's the kind of wealth the rich holds really. So tracking that, monitoring that regularly will actually give us the indicator of how we are doing or reducing inequality. Fourth, increase public expenditure on health and education. Deliver universal free healthcare, education, and other public services that also works for women and girls. Stop supporting privatization of public services. Provide pension, child benefits, and other social protection for all. Design all services to ensure they also delivers for women and girls. Free up women's time by easing the millions of unpaid hours they spend every day caring for their family and homes. Let those who do these essential works have a say in the budget decision and make freeing up women's time a key objective of government spending. Invest in public services, including water, electricity, childcare, that reduce the time needed to do this unpaid work. Design all public services in a way that work for these with little time to spare. Few other points other than the above which we can ask the government to do are as follows: promoting labor intensive sector, that will create more jobs, investing more in agriculture, and implementing fully the social protection scheme that exist, create more equal opportunity. Successive governments have failed to commit to reduce inequality in India. By raising your voice, you can urge the government to tackle the inequality head on. Commitment at an influential international forum such as World Economic Forum 2018 Davos will ensure that government keep its promise to Sustainable Development Goal 10, reducing inequality by 2030. Thank you.